basic necessities.
We are live and ready when you are, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. Yep. All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's 1:45 p.m. Monday, December 6th, 2021, and we're here for a values and priorities planning retreat / work session of the Seldovia City Council. And we'll go ahead and, you want to take it away, Rachel?
You bet. Thanks, Mayor. So the first part of your agenda, which is on the third page of your packet, we're just going to start off with a welcome. So welcome, council and public. Thank you so much for making the time to go over your priorities for next year, for the calendar year of 2022. Council first had its retreat back in 2020 for calendar year 2021, and I think you'd be very happy in how the staff and council have worked together to make progress on all of those initiatives that you set out for the city. And so we're hoping to do the same thing for calendar year 2022, because the city only has so much time and resources to accomplish the many needs of the city on behalf of the public. And so by giving these priorities to staff, you're basically telling us as a body, these are the main things that we want you to focus the city resources and time on. And so, for example, you have in the packet what council adopted back for calendar year 2021. That's on page, let's see here. Maybe that did not make it into your packet. I thought, oh, here we
For
go.
2020, yeah,
Let's see here.
I've got 22.
Yes, on page 22 of your packet, you can see what council adopted for this calendar year. And so no harm at all in using some of the same priorities, because, for example, the larger ones we're still in the middle of, and perhaps council would like to maintain those as the large priorities for calendar year 2022. So that's the main part of the exercise. And so there's another part of today, which is a values exercise. And so I'm just going to go over the objective of the retreat. It's to determine the city of Seldovia's top 5 values and the Seldovia City Council's priorities for calendar year 2022 in order to ensure city resources are used efficiently to provide high quality services to Seldovia citizens. And so when it comes to your priorities, after we have our top small, medium, and large, then we'll ask if there's council members who would like to be council champions on particular priorities. And so that's the overall objective of today. We're going to have an exercise that's led by our city clerk and special projects and communications coordinator, Heidi Gagel, to help us set the city's top 5 values. There's a worksheet that she developed for the council in here, in addition to some examples from organizations such as SVT, the city of Gustavus, and the city of Saxman, for how those cities have outlined their values. So take it away, city clerk.
Okay, thank you. And I do see on the agenda that it says we have an hour, but I really don't think it's going to take an hour. So I'll try to lead you through this as efficiently as possible. But hopefully everybody can turn to page 5 of their packet, which is that value worksheet. And just page 5. We're glitching on you.
Yep. So what did you say? Page something?
Page 5. And for those of you on Zoom, it may be helpful to have a piece of paper to write on. I don't know if you have access to that or if you could write it on your board, but mostly it's going to be work that you guys can do on your own, and then we'll bring it all together at the end. So hopefully you found that. We've got page 5, value worksheet, and it just gives a simple definition according to Google. The first thing that came up on Google when you asked to define value is the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something, a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. And the city of Seldovia has an amazing mission. No, I shouldn't say amazing, but we have a great mission statement. So this is just kind of adding to that. What are the things that the council, what are the values that hold dear for the city of Seldovia? I put in this first example of values from Gustavus because I really liked that separated out or it defined what tangible and intangible values are, and that it speaks to the fact that most of the people live in Gustavus because it offers a particular way of life. Tangible things like clean air, access to the glacier park, beautiful scenery, intangible things like close-knit community, a sense of safety, slower life pace. It seemed like were some things that may or may not be in common with Seldovia. But hopefully, gives your guys some idea, some spark for ideas. So if you can work through this with me on the bottom of page 5, where the first part of the exercise is just to simply list out what you think some of the tangible values of the community are. Those are the local attractions, what brings you in, that you can actually, see, get to use, resources, those kind of things. And then what are the intangible values, which are the community and individual values, safety, community, those kind of instances. So if you can take 5 minutes or less, we'll see how long it takes everybody, but take about 5 minutes to just kind of think through that. What are some of the tangible and intangible values, and write that down. Then we'll work through the next step.
Heidi, I have a question, if I can ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I guess I wish I had to have this packet earlier, and it's really annoying me that I didn't, my own fault, I guess. But what I'm trying to figure out is the priorities that we set last year. Do we have a synopsis of what we've actually accomplished?
That'll be the next step of the presentation. Right now, we're just trying to establish values.
Okay,
So like you would see on it might help if I can screen share and I can show some of these. Like you would have on our website, it has our mission statement. So there are other communities that not only have their mission statement, but they would have their values. So if I just pull up Gustavus real quick, I can show you an example, and that might be helpful. So they have, for instance, this is their values and vision statement. They have values and vision, but there are others, and you can see them in your packet. On like page 9 is City of Saxman. Their vision mission statement is planning the future, preserving the past, and their values are culture, respect for all people, transparency, unity. Gustavus we talked about. We have an example from SVT where their mission is to promote wellness of their people and communities through healthcare and social services, economic development, and education. And their values are cultural identity, determined self-sufficiency, excellence in service, integrity, partnership and collaboration, respect for self and others, and visionary leadership. So we're just asking you to think, what is the value of Seldovia? What are the tangible things that bring value to Seldovia, and what are the intangible things? Any other questions?
no, I get, oh, not from me, I guess.
Okay.
And council that's joining us virtually, how's our internet doing? Can you hear us okay?
Right now it's coming in okay. It was coming in, going and glitching, but right now it's okay.
I haven't had any problems. I don't know if, yeah, it's fine on my end.
Yeah, I turned off my video, thinking that might help.
Okay, thank you.
We'll give it about another minute. Okay, hopefully everybody has some things listed under tangible values and intangible values, just a few items in each or more. Up to you, whatever comes to your guys' mind. If you changed page 6, turn to page 6 and follow through with me, then you will see the City of Seldovia's mission statement, which is, it is the mission of the City of Seldovia to provide leadership and cost-effective services in support of a stable economy, a healthy and safe community, and a quality lifestyle respectful of the natural environment and community character, while promoting maximum citizen participation in local governance. Sorry. So with that in mind, and with your list above, I want you to take 5. It doesn't matter if they're tangible or intangible or a mix of both, but take your top 5 out of the previous page and list them out. And we'll give you about 5 minutes on that one as well. Actually, it probably shouldn't take us long. We'll give you 3 minutes. And just a little less than a minute left on this part of the exercise. Unless we need more time. Okay, hopefully everybody has their top 5 picked out and listed. And then if you didn't see yet, below that, you'll provide a 1-word summary or 1 word to summarize each of those values above. So unless they're already in 1-word statements for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just reading each of your sentences, what's 1 word that encompasses that value? If you can narrow it down. If you can't, that's okay. But we're going to narrow it down, and then we're going to go into a group discussion and see how many common values we have versus, what are some different values that other people came up with, and then how to really just sympathize, make that into the top 5. So if you can take those 5 that you decided on through this exercise and just think of what is that 1 word that really encompasses that statement and list it below. And we'll give about another couple of minutes for that. Say, then everybody will share. So hopefully you're prepared to share what those 5 words are. Okay, hopefully everybody was able to do a good paring down and come to a short statement or 1 word that summarizes each of your top values. And I would ask now that we go around the room and everybody shares their top 5. We're going to try this through this online Google Jamboard so we can add some color and see how this works for everybody. But I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if you want to go first or if
Sure.
you want to pick somebody.
Yep, I'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
Okay, you guys can hear me? Everyone on Zoom there?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Yep, I came up with, and I didn't necessarily put them in order. I listed my 5. Number 1 was a tangible, unique beaches, waterfront, and waterways. Number 2, wildlife and nature viewing. Number 3, access to outdoor recreation, hiking, biking, and berry picking. Number 4, more of an intangible, slower paced lifestyle. And number 5, sense of small town, community minded citizens with a broad spectrum of socioeconomic backgrounds. And then in that order, so number 1, I should have just said my word as well to sum those up. For the beaches, waterfront, and waterways, I would just summarize that as scenery. Number 2, for wildlife and nature viewing, summarize that as nature. Number 3, access to outdoor recreation, hiking, biking, berry picking, summarize that as recreation. Number 4, slower paced lifestyle, summarize that as relaxation. And then number 5, sense of small town, community minded citizens, summarize that as community.
Not quite as fast as you, so let's make sure I've got these right. So we've got recreation, relaxation, slower, sense of life. I'm gonna get rid of this one. Slower pace of life, sorry. Got scenery, which was, and I will add your notes. 'cause those are
Scenery was for unique beaches, waterfronts, and waterways.
unique beaches. Okay. And then nature,
Was wildlife and nature viewing.
okay, and then there was one more that I did not get.
Let's see, was it the community?
Community.
Sense of small town. Community-minded citizens. Broad spectrum of socioeconomic backgrounds.
Ooh.
So if I can just make one comment, Heidi, what I noticed is that when I was going through this, and then when you pulled out the kind of the piece to me that pulls this all together is summarizing it in one key word. So if you just read like the words I came up with: scenery, nature, recreation, relaxation, and community.
Yep.
If I was looking for a place to live,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'd be looking for, right? So, and then I'm sure there, then there's obviously the backstory to each one of those. So that's for me personal. I'll be interested to see what everyone else comes up with.
And City Clerk, do you want to have the other items there, or do you just want to stick to one word, especially because it's kind of hard to see?
Well, let's start with this, and then as we see what everybody has, we're gonna add. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hopefully start piling sticky notes on top of each other that are similar,
Perfect.
and we'll see, and then ones that are their own. So let's see how this goes. Those were great descriptions. Yeah. So originally it was the one word, but those were great descriptions. So we want to follow that. George, are you ready with your top 5 values? And you can give just one word, and if you want to explain it further, you're more than welcome to.
Well, it's, I guess, great minds move together. I'm very, very close to what Jeremiah has.
Mhm.
One thing, I think we need to be careful about values for people we want to come here and live, or values for people who want to visit here. I think they're very different. And I tried to select things that would work for either one, but it's really two different things. My first one was the experience of an off-road Alaska village. This is a unique thing. We're a city, but we're the size of a village, and most places this size are native villages or so remote that they're just inaccessible and certainly not as welcoming as we are. And the ability to come here and see an off the road place, you have to fly to get here or get in a boat. That's a big feature, I think. And then of course, just down to the the things you can do here: sport fishing, hunting, wildlife viewing, and then trails. And they're kind of all wrapped up in one gumball, but that's pretty much what we have to offer here for visitors and to an extent for folks we want to attract to live here. And I think every one of those will fit under one of Jeremiah's categories there.
So would it be fair if I put sport fishing, hunting, wildlife under recreation
That's fine.
and experience off-road community? Are you thinking scenery or community, or should it be one of its own?
I don't know. That's
The experience.
that might be
Zone.
something of its own. I don't know.
Perfect. And do you have anything additional to add?
That's what?
Do you have anything additional to add?
No.
Okay. Anybody in Zoom world ready to offer your?
Sure, I am. Yeah, I will. This is Vivian.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go in the same direction, but I do have one word at the end. So when I listed my tangibles, I put access at our fingertips, nature, water activities, fishing, hiking, and then transportation options. Those are my tangibles. Then I went into intangible, close community, slow pace of living, safety. And then I listed my values, broke it down.
Okay.
Number 1 being nature, 2, close-knit community involvement, 3, slow pace of living and safe, 4 was volunteerism, advocacy, involvement, and then 5 was transportation options. Then for my one word, which I think we're seeing commonalities without a doubt. One word was nature, 2 was involvement, 3 was unhurried, 4 was volunteerism, and 5 was transportation. And by the transportation, I think some people look at Seldovia and say, well, we're off the road system, but we're not that far. We're not bush living, but we do have, we are off the road, and that gives us some luxuries and some inconvenience, but there is transportation options. So that's what I came up with.
Okay, so let me make sure I have your 5. You've got nature, unhurried, involvement, transportation, and what was the last one?
Volunteerism.
Oh, that's a good one. We don't have that one yet. Oop. Okay, so I'm gonna put,
Ready if you're up.
yes, give me just 1 second. Okay, ready when you are, Councilmember Payton.
Community,
I'm sorry, what was that?
I can't tell if I'm okay. Community,
Yep.
volunteerism, structure, access to water and wildlife recreation, quality of air and life.
I think I missed what your second one was.
Volunteerism,
Okay. So it's the third one I missed then.
infrastructure,
Ooh, okay.
Wonder if that volunteerism doesn't go down along with the community down on across the bottom, Heidi.
There you go. Okay. So from you, Miss Peyton, I've got community, volunteerism, infrastructure, quality, quality air and life, and access to wildlife.
Yeah, water and wildlife. I know the water word is super important, but we do
Water
live on it.
and wildlife. Okay. Perfect. And then we have either Ms. Sweat or, yep, if you're ready.
I can do it. Yeah, so I don't really know if I put the right things, but this is what I put. Keeping the small town atmosphere alive. Encouraging new families and businesses to move here. Keeping Seldovia running the most efficient way possible, providing services that the community expects. Transparency from the city and its members, and responsible economic development. Does that fit under all this?
Certainly.
Okay.
And do you have a one word or a
Yes.
short statement for each?
For number 1, it's beauty. For number 2, it's economy. For number 3, it's efficiency. Number 4 is transparency. And number 5 is jobs.
Great. Okay. And those almost seem like they need their own category for like a government or organization, something to that effect. So we'll have to work through that. Perfect. Okay, and then we have Councilmember Spick.
Yeah, I got a little distracted by nap time here. But the one thing that I would add that is kind of on par with what everyone said, but the word wasn't thrown out, was secluded for the whole off the road system. And I think volunteerism was also another big one that was already touched on. It's kind of all I really have to add.
Great. So it does seem like there's a lot of similarities, which was the great part of sticky notes, is they could kind of pile on top of each other. And hopefully seeing this visually helps. I know that some of the words are a little bit smaller than others. But now I think would be a great time for just council discussion of if you were going to pick a one word or short statement for your 5 values based on what you're seeing has come out from your fellow council members and mayor, what you think those would be. Just seeing what everybody has in mind. Any thoughts?
Trying to figure out exactly what you're looking for to get that wrapped up.
If between all of these, so if we can say, looks like community, and we can sum these up together. So if we have community seems to be a very big one.
Nature,
Community, nature, volunteerism, is that, part of community, even relaxation and slower pace. I mean, that can, and we can make this into a statement if we need to. But that sense of community, sense of involvement.
I think, yeah, you can combine the unhurried lifestyle with the secluded off the road system. Those could be combined, but it looks like most of us came up with mostly firstly anyhow, was the nature and the beauty around us and what we get out of that. Between the beaches, the hiking, the camping, the hunting, else nature. And then you've got an appreciation for a community that works together and volunteers and has that integral component. Let's see.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then, so I think also separately, and I'm just trying to summarize, but you guys tell me if this is your intent. You got the nature and beauty around, which is great. The community and that sense of involvement, the community wants to work together. And then I could even see from the way it was split out from people's 5, it seems like that even additionally from that community and volunteerism, like those are the people, but also that there is that uniqueness of being off the road system, having a slower paced life.
Mhm.
And I'm just trying to think of how to summarize
Yeah,
that.
something along the lines, community, community and I kind of lost my train, community and living. Too many adjectives here. Will come back to me here.
Rural living.
No, I won't.
Let me see what that be.
Yeah,
Let's see.
not. Oh, I don't want to use the word isolated because it's not a good word. Oh, so community and lifestyle, living the lifestyle. Yeah, lifestyle of living in a quasi remote community.
Remote community
something
lifestyle. Okay.
I mean, I think we're all trying to say pretty much the same thing.
Mhm.
That's what we live here.
Yes. Okay. So we've got nature and beauty, the community lifestyle, or remote community lifestyle, remote-ish, and the community sense of involvement / volunteerism.
And then I think all those, the ones that were kind of all by themselves up there almost seem like they can go into one. It looks to me like they're all kind of talking about some sort of organized entity, i.e. small city, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, we're looking at jobs, economy, efficiency, values of transportation, infrastructure. I mean, those all kind of describe a small city, if you will. So I think that shows me that people like, and I've made this statement before, I like having some level of services. Like George was saying too, this is not a small little tiny village in the middle of nowhere that has nothing. We have a lot to offer for such a small town here.
Right.
Hence, I think that's why we're in this meeting, because that all costs money.
Uh-huh.
A lot of money.
Mhm.
Okay. So how about summing it up as small city living with community services provided?
There you go.
Okay, so scenic nature and beauty, small city living with community services provided, remote-ish community lifestyle, so off the road system. Or off the beaten path even.
Mhm.
And community sense of involvement or volunteerism. And then, so then the other is, I know we have the nature and beauty, but it looks like we also have, so does that work together as one, or is like the unique scenery one of itself and then recreation another, for instance?
I think, I mean, you could almost summarize that in everything that the outdoors here has to offer.
Yeah.
I mean, it has all those things. The outdoors has all of those things to offer.
Okay. So I've got scenic nature and beauty around us, recreation, small city living with community services provided, community lifestyle off the road system, and community sense of involvement, volunteerism. Do you guys feel like that kind of sums up values? And we can bring these back next time, you know, with a more put together, but I feel like that's the top 5 we're getting to right there.
Yeah,
Is that
You've got
what-
a good summary there. I think you've got a good summary for right now.
Okay, so we're gonna go with that for now. And as long as that's not missing anybody's main ideas for the values of Seldovia, and I'll just emphasize that again. I should have done this. Let's see here.
It's also kind of interesting how I mean, everyone's got differing
Mhm.
opinions on everything, but when it comes to
Mhm.
living here and the things that we all experience, everyone
Mhm.
seems to be very like-minded in our thought process.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hattie, are you just getting caught up on your thoughts before we move
Yep,
on?
sorry, I was just writing it one more time.
Yep,
That way
all
you
good.
guys can just see what we have, and then I'll work with Rachel on this to really formalize. But that's where we're at. That's what I have as our top 5 values.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing that. I get where you're at. I thought I was sharing it. Let's see.
Can I give you one more little
Absolutely.
crumb? This is all wonderful. It's all true and it's all good. The missing element, the problem is we're all preaching to the choir here. We need some way to communicate this set of values to people that want to come here or don't even know they want to come here yet. I met people all over the state when I was flying, and the conversation would always come to, oh, Seldovia, you know, I've lived up here all my life and I've never been there. I know where it is. And I never got there. Or, wow, that sounds really cool. How do you get there? I mean, we got to be known, and that's, there's 1,000 different ways to do that, but we can cook up all the values in the world. If we can't tell people about them and make them want to experience that, we're whistling in the park.
Yeah. And I think, if I may, I think also this practice that we're doing today is to guide us through how we do business in Seldovia. But you're absolutely right, George. I met flying back up from Seattle. I met 3 people at different times, sitting to them, chatting with them. Said, "Oh, where are you from?" They told me, and they said, "Oh, Seldovia." And I said, "Yeah." And they would say, "Oh, I got to Homer," but I said, "Well, it was just a wee bit of a trip across the bay to Seldovia." "Oh, I've always wanted to go there." And these are Alaskans. So, but I think this practice that we're doing today is to give us direction and setting a mission statement and values that we have for as our representation for our population to guide us through how we're getting there. I mean, a lot of this advertising, Seldovia should be on the Chamber of Commerce, and Seldovia supports it in whatever way with services. And I think that's someplace where we get kind of twisted up a little bit, but there's probably ways that we can advertise ourselves more. But I would say from way back when I came here and now, there's a lot more people are making their way to Seldovia. So whatever it is, people are just accessing, Seldovia easier or what, but it's definitely more than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah, just to follow on with your comment there, Vivian, and from what George said too. Yeah, one thing that's different from years and years ago is the the aspects of social media and how it's changed everyone's access to small towns like this and knowing what's going on. And I mentioned a couple meetings ago that a number of folks that I've met, either coming over and, renting golf carts or staying at the hotel, how they mentioned that, man, every single travel blog you go on, there's some you guys are in somebody's good graces, because there seems to be a popular comment about Seldovia on, online in all these places. So I
Cool.
think that must be a combination of different people throughout the community. They know how to do all these meta tags and all this crazy stuff that I don't know how to do, but I know just from our little bit of, advertising on Facebook, it's come back to us in spades. And I know once it gets out there, it just continues to populate on the other people's feeds and how, all that stuff. So it's, that's probably the number one biggest way to get our name out there, if you will.
Right.
If I could
Yes.
just tell you a little story. 25 years ago, nearly 30 years ago, Annie McKenzie and I sat down and cooked up an idea. We sold a package that people would drive down to Homer, get on the Rainbow, take the boat over to Seldovia. They got a little tour of the islands and looked at some whales and whatnot. They spent 2 days in the hotel. I flew them back to Homer and did just a little flight C, and then landed in Homer. I had a cab waiting on the field to take them back out to their vehicle. The first year we did, 200-300 people. The second year, I hired 2 pilots, at least another airplane, and we flew 1,000 people that summer. And that was all just word of mouth. There wasn't any internet or anything else. Just, it was something that stuck out. People liked it. We advertised in the Anchorage paper. That was it. They were all Alaskans, and most of them had never been to Seldovia. They all knew about it, but they'd never been here. So it's, if we had a reliable airline that flew directly from Anchorage, there's 1,000 ways we could get people to come here. When I flew Grand Canyon trips in Tucson, I went to all the big hotels in town, and I said, "Here, there's $50 for you for the concierge anytime you send me a Grand Canyon trip." I had more business than I could do. There's ways to get out there that don't cost a lot of money, and they're effective.
Okay, so thank you guys for working through this exercise. I will still work to make this into a decent statement off of what everybody said, but I just added to it, so that scenic nature and beauty, it seems like that value is to protect that natural resource, right? That's the value of, what is the value of the scenic nature and beauty for the community? Is to protect it so it's available. Is that a fair statement? Recreation, seems like the value there is to provide access to those community resources for people to be able to go out and enjoy them. Small city with community services available. I put that as sustainable economy. I don't know if that's where everybody's going, but it seems like that was a big part of it, is having services, being able to provide those services, that infrastructure, that the economy obviously is a key part in being able to provide that. And then I'm still working on community lifestyle, off the road system, something about, I don't know, the uniqueness of where Seldovia is, but then that the community sense of involvement and volunteerism is that unity, that close-knit community being a value. Is that fair enough?
Yep, looks good.
You got cut off a couple times. Did you want to speak? You had a comment?
Okay. Thank you guys so much for working through this with us, and we'll share as it comes together.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yes, thank you, City Clerk. And we could even incorporate that into the resolution that'll be on your meeting agenda for the 13th, adopting your priorities. So I just wanted to take a temperature check on how you guys are doing. Do you want to take a 5-minute break? Or should we keep going?
What's the next on the agenda?
Councilmember Rojas, we're going to get into the priorities.
Okay.
Yeah, and we
I
can
mean-
break in. We can, whenever you guys want to break, we could just holler and break anywhere
Yep.
in there if you want, if
Yeah.
that works.
All right, keep going then.
Sure. You guys good with that, Vivian and Jennifer, Harmony?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so City Clerk, can you pull open the Word document for individual priorities? So last year, Council had its experience completing some worksheets to help whittle away to a digestible size of priorities for the calendar year. Small priorities being ones that, let's see, I'm going to pull up an example that was in your packet. So if you go to page 19, it shows us an example of a small priority, which we were able to accomplish of including the council member photos on the city website, in addition to your biographies. So it's a small priority because it could take 1 to 2 hours of staff time, doesn't have substantial costs. It's very attainable. It's the need is still there of helping improve constituents' knowledge about their elected officials, as well as helping broadcast to state and federal delegation who Seldovia's elected officials are. So that's an example of a small one. If you go to page 20, here's an example of a medium priority. So updating the City of Seldovia's budget document to make it more user-friendly. This we did accomplish for FY22, including a lot of narratives and data so that both the council as well as external agencies that review the budget can understand what services the city provides. It's medium. It took more than 20 to 30 hours, but we were still able to accomplish it within 1 fiscal year. It didn't require significant budgetary expenses other than staff time. That's an example of a medium priority. And then large on page 21, creating a capital asset / public facilities maintenance plan. We actually have one of those in our fiscal year 22 budget. We are thinking that that could take 30 to 40 hours of staff time. You might have to consult with experts on equipment longevity and maintenance needs, just a lot more external partners and work. And so for those are just examples that were provided in your packet for how you could go about the priorities. And then if you look at what the council put together on page 22 in your packet, you could see that our large priorities for the year, which we're still working through, and council member Sweat was asking what progress we've made on the priorities. So I'm happy to go over that if there's specific questions, but just looking at our first large priority of taking a hard look at the city's finances. How do we restructure the permanent fund? How do we look at figuring out ways to capture lost revenue or reduce our expenses? You have sewer water infrastructure complete upgrade. So for that, we've been first having focus on improving our best practices score. So can we get a remote operator in Homer in place so that the city can have a best practices score that we then qualify for loans and funding? Number 3, jackaloff maintenance and upgrades, and in addition to upgrades at the harbor. So just looking at what the council proposed for 2021, you can see a more tangible examples or demonstration of what large, medium, and small are. Medium, land use management plan, we're still working on it. Improving cell phone internet capability. Council approved a cell tower going up. We've been working with SVT and broadband, rural broadband services. Small, beautification, small town charm, that could be getting banners put up on the lampposts. Council set up a beautification committee. You guys have proposed some various ideas for how to bring in small town charm. Improving communications with KBBI. They now have an agreement with the city where when there's an emergency, we can use our sat phones and communicate with them, and they'll broadcast it on their radio on behalf of Seldovia. And then finishing the kiosk project. I mean, I guess that one is, what do you consider finished? But at least the actual construction is finished. So those are just some examples of large, medium, and small. So for this next exercise, we're going to go council member to council member, and the city clerk is just going to type out what your small, your top 3 small, top 3 medium, and top 3 large priorities are. And if there's any questions again on that, please ask away, and we'll go from there. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may ask a
Yep, go ahead,
question.
Vivian.
Yeah, I get, when I'm looking at these priorities, and before we go through the exercise, looking at the large priorities, do we even want to change any of those? I mean, those are right on our, those are on our deck right now. Do we really want to add something more, or do we need to add something more to have it in the burner? I guess that's my question. Do we go through these individually right now, looking at what we've got and say, yes, this is the one we keep. Yes, our projection of this is that we get it done this year in 2 years or 5 years instead of adding more. I think the smalls, that's the place where we're actually making faster headway, of course. I just need some clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, and I had Vivian, just to follow up to that too. And I mean, I think that's a good approach. I mean, I think we can shave probably a bunch of time here on looking at, because we know what reality is. I wonder if on the large priorities, just looking at that, I mean, I would think that number one is probably going to still remain priority. It's certainly my priority, how we've got that listed. But when I look at number 2 and number 3 on the large priorities, I wonder if if those don't get swapped around based on the ability to actually get something done in the very near future with either the existing city harbor or the Jackaloff dock. We know the water sewer infrastructure complete upgrade is going to be a monumental funding requirement to complete that. So I just wonder if it doesn't make more sense to try to do those. If number 2 is our priority, then we can get that done. And then number 3, you know, we're working on number 1. I think we can make a bunch of progress this year on number 2. And then number 3, obviously we work to get it slide up the list as we complete some, you know, one of these other ones.
I would say you bet. This is just because with elections, bodies change. And so that you could have a complete change of priorities, even despite the fact that there is a lot going on with those larger categories. So we can start that way. We can start with large and just see if there were council members that had other ideas besides what's listed for 2021. And it looks like Councilmember Nathan has something.
Doesn't he always? There's even a statement in here that echoes what I was thinking when I first picked this up. He who has too many priorities has no priorities. Sun Tzu said, the he who defends everything defends nothing. Everything rolls around our budget. I would rather see every single resource, every minute of staff time that's available working toward developing a sustainable flow of money in and out. And I mean, we've got to rent something, sell something, lease something, tax something, somehow develop some more money coming in here. And on the other side of that, maybe we need to think about shrinking our spending in some kind of way. But nothing else is going to happen until we have a sustainable budget. And I think we should see that as the linchpin to everything.
Yeah, I would agree with George, and that ties in with our number 1 priority, large finance overall. And I would agree with our mayor that item number 3, the Seldovia Harbor and Jackaloff things, how that's beating down our doors, needs to become number 2. And number 2, the sewer water infrastructure, which is a long-term, huge project, becomes number 3, unless somebody else has something for that. But I would say city finance and George's comments is definitely where we're all talking. And then Seldovia Harbor and Jackaloff become number 2, and 2 becomes 3, unless there's something else. To me, that's where we're headed. And when I jotted notes to myself, I had Jackaloff dock. I had new and existing revenue streams, finding those, budget, realistic, revenue, sustainable. So those seem to be in the forefront of my mind and what I hear from folks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Yeah, and just real quick. So Heidi or Rachel, I mean, are we good? I mean, I don't want to hijack the way you guys had this set up, but I think we can
No, definitely not. As long
move
as,
things along on some of this stuff.
Yes.
So
but are there other large priorities though
right,
that other
right. No,
council members have?
I would agree. And I would think now, based on what the comments from George and Vivian and myself, if does anybody else have any additional priorities, large priorities they'd like to either see on to replace one of the top 3 or on the list at all, other than what we have listed here?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, Bobby.
I personally don't right now. I agree with leaving them the way they are, switching 2 and 3. And especially given what's happening out at with Jackalock Dock. I think that's plenty for us to deal with at this point in time.
Okay, yeah, number one, obviously, of the large
Well, yeah.
is that, I mean, we know that's our priority, and that seems to be where we're spending the majority of our time here throughout the year, but obviously we can't lose sight of, some of these other items that have to get dealt with. So anyone online, Jennifer or Harmony?
Yeah. I just had kind of a little more specific, I guess it falls under that, the finances, just more specifically of trying to reinvest that permanent fund and develop, plans for long-term plans for dividend interest income off of that. But I guess that all lumps right into that. And then I had the value added building. I don't know if that necessarily needs to be a large. I kind of had it as a medium. Maybe it could fall in that empty gap there of the medium, of either trying to figure out completing it or leasing it or something moving forward for the future of that building. Whatever we could do there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair to, I mean, everyone's talked about that, and that's kind of a community eyesore that seems to be moving on, that we need to get something moving on that. So I think that's fair to want that added on here somewhere. And I think it might be appropriate in the, in the medium category.
And then Councilmember Swick, just to make sure we get it down too. I know the permanent fund is mentioned in the large priorities, but you said specifically figuring out how to reinvest the dividend interest.
No, whatever we were to reinvesting in the, whatever that guy gave us the presentation about taking it out of AMLIP. And then developing, if it's going to be that profitable where we're going to be able to see interest to be able to use that in day-to-day, maybe someday. I don't know if that's a possibility of making money off of that. Yeah.
Yes. And
about that, correct? Some point.
yes, that's going to come back before the council very soon. But so this exercise too, the more specific council is, the more successful we can be too at meeting your objectives. And so that's why I just wanted to make sure we got the language down. And so for that, what you're talking about is right now the permanent fund is restricted in the way it can be invested through Title 12 and Seldovia Municipal Code. And so perhaps how we can accomplish the priority brought up is amending Seldovia Municipal Code Title 12 so that the permanent fund can be invested not just in bonds and low risk ventures, but instead be invested more aggressively through stocks. So, something to that effect. Does that seem like it aligns with what you're trying to get at?
It's a little better than what we got going on.
Got it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot. We have on this priority list from last year, didn't we have the roads on here somewhere? What happened? Where did that move to? Or I can't remember if I asked you about that before already or not. Is that not a priority anymore?
So Councilmember Sweat, the council amended the priorities later on in the year after realizing that perhaps the city needed to focus more attention on these more immediate concerns and then address roads later on. So council elected to remove roads for the time being. But you did pass a resolution resolution establishing the Seldovia Safe Roads Program, and there has been some progress on that. So you guys are going to see that in the next few months as well.
I
But-
remember that now.
But for your
yeah.
top priorities, yeah, council elected to take that off and instead make city finances a top priority
Yeah.
for the city. Councilmember Payton, did you have any other large council priorities as an individual member for us to consider?
My internet is so bad. You guys are breaking up quite a bit. I was gonna chime in about the value add and the lot, and I like the amendment to the finance. Other than that, I don't need to add any changes to.
High-speed internet has to be on here somewhere. Absolutely has to be on here.
I
Holy cow.
I think Councilmember Payton, we got what you were saying. And we're excited to hear what you have to share on the value added medium priority. So if council's done with the large individual priorities, let's hop down to medium. So for 2021, council said the land use management plan was your top medium priority, and then improving cell phone internet capability was your second. Were there any other priorities that the council would like to consider for the next calendar year?
So with that being said, we know the cell phone internet thing is moving. Can we remove that off of here? Not to diminish its importance, because obviously it's hugely important, but I mean, at what point can we remove, something that is accomplished or on its way to being accomplished to add another, something else additional on here?
Right. I would say that's up to the council. If the council feels like we've done as much as we can at this point, I would, for that particular priority, say that there's a new cell tower that's up and hopefully running soon. And then in terms of internet and just improving with 5G, the city, through working with GCI, was able to get a survey done of an underwater cable to improve fiber optics ability in Seldovia, and they decided at this point it's not a practical business measure to make. And so I feel like at this point the city has done as much as it can during the calendar year. So if you guys don't want us to keep figuring out different ways for the next year, you could take that off and it can always come back on again.
Well, what's interesting is now there's, talk at the federal level about this, $1 billion coming to Alaska for rural internet. I mean, that's why cell phone and internet are two completely different things, obviously. I mean, the cell phone tower may or may not improve our 9 million drop calls a week that we get here, but it's certainly not going to help, I don't think, from what I've been told, with our internet capability. Maybe if you have a stronger cell signal, it might help your data on your phone, the data transfer on your phone, but not our household everyday internet.
Right. So for that reason, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would say if we're talking about money coming from the feds, coming to the state of Alaska, I think we need to have it on our priority list so we actually show it. So maybe we could move it to item 3 and direct it more about internet broadband capability so it's not forgotten. And then the other item that we were talking about, the value added building, can be moved in second place. Because I think it's important that if somebody asks us, is this your priority? Is it a priority? We can say, yes, it is, has been for 2 years now. So I would encourage us to keep it on our priority list, but possibly shift it one over.
And what did we do? Thank you, Vivian. No, I agree with you. And what did we decide when it comes to transportation? We had, now, so there's additional article out now on the Tustamina replacement now, with it looks like the Dunleavy administration is finally going to get on board here. We'll see how if that all comes to fruition, but Angela just told me about it this morning. She saw it, but I didn't get a chance to read it yet, but it sounds like they want to invest over the next 5 years to continue to keep the Tustamina in work, and then work towards getting the ferry replaced. Now, I don't know, that's from federal funds on that. And I don't know if that is, going to be up against the same battle where, half the legislature doesn't feel that those funds are being used, in a proper manner, by directing them to the Marine Highway or not. So it might be lip service, it might not be. I don't know how that's all going to come to be, but didn't we have transportation on here at one point, and then we decided the same thing to pull it off there because it was kind of its own separate deal.
Mhm. And again, council could put it back on there. You could, like, for example, we could continue, since city administration, we already do advocacy for the ferry. Whenever
Mhm.
there's a discussion on the ferry schedule, we work with council, we submit a letter, so we could continue to do that. You guys could, since the kiosk project, depending on how you want to call it, finished, if it's just looking at construction, for the time being, you could always remove that, or the KBBI one, we've accomplished that. So you could always put ferry advocacy as a small priority if that's an interest of the council. And then in addition to having that improve cell phone / internet capability, if council does want to remove cell phone from that, you could always put parentheses, pursue rural broadband funding. And then next year, administration can look at the federal funding opportunity for rural broadband to see if we would qualify, if that's what council wanted us to do.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, along with that, since I would say we can remove from the small priority, the KBBI thing, because that's pretty much done, correct? Yeah, so we could remove that, and we could actually remove the harbor kiosks because they're basically done. It just needs, we just need to be able to focus on renting them this year, and then it's probably all going to change anyway. But basically that project's done, except for working it into a much larger project, which we can discuss some other time. But how about we move the improved cell phone and internet capability down to small? Because we'll be looking at it constantly, right? I mean, when new things come up or you guys talk to people about it. So just as a reminder. And then we could put the value added building in medium. And then, what did you say, Jeremiah, before, Mr. Mayor, before I started talking?
Well, we talked about the value added building there, and then just remove, I think based on what I've heard and the comments about leaving internet on here somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think that could go under the small, maybe the number 3.
I would definitely agree on removing the KBBI and the harbor kiosk, because those are both well on their way to completion or completed.
And I guess to bring us back here, so for medium, aside from addressing, like, removing cell phone and just focusing on internet, because that was one of the proposals as a medium priority, as well as finishing the land use management plan. Are there other medium priorities the council had as a body? Council member Swick, Rojas, or Peyton online?
If I may, at this time for the medium, I really don't have any anything
I
in
have,
addition.
uh,
Go ahead.
Okay, I think we're having some internet problems there. So Vivian, you didn't have any additional ones, and I think Harmony was trying to get a word in there.
Correct, Mayor. I'm good with what our conversation has been so far and changes.
Okay. Do you want to see, Vivian, do you want to see the value added building on, slide into one of those slots, either number 2 or number 3 on the medium?
Yep. Yeah, I would like to see value added slide into slot 2. And then
Internet over to number 3.
then internet stays on there, right? And then I agree, keeping KBBI off. We've accomplished that. The kiosks, they're an ongoing project. They've been completed, but we just haven't. Now they're at another place with how we get them rented. And then anyhow, we're not quite to all the small discussion yet, I don't think. But for the mediums, right? And I agree, when we move the Tustamita replacement vessel, that's an ongoing project, just like the kiosks are going to be an ongoing project. Advocate. Did I hear that somebody wanted to bring back the Alaska Marine Highway back onto our priorities?
No, I had just asked. I couldn't remember the background, but I agree. I think, I mean, we know that's, an ongoing thing that we'll constantly, all of us between council and administration will be keeping an eye out, and then, either writing letters or, testifying, whatever we need to do when the time comes. And that's a long process, obviously a 5-year process. And what I'm hoping to see on here, things that are, a little more tangible and some things that have the ability to actually get completed in the near future, 1 to 3 years.
Right, I agree. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Harmony, go ahead if you can. I think we're hearing you, but you're real broken.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, we're not getting.
I would like some sort of go back to the meeting. Our back.
Can we get her on the phone?
Are you guys? Can you?
No, you're super
Here.
super broken. Really, really broken.
Do we have?
Stand by, Harmony.
Do we have message
Oh.
on that?
Yeah, is there no chat feature? Okay.
You can put on speaker, can't you?
Yeah, we're gonna try to call you, Harmony, if you can hear us on the cell phone.
And then Councilmember Swick, while we wait for Councilmember Payton, were there any other medium priorities you would like the council to consider?
No, I didn't have anything else to add.
Okay.
So George or Bobby, did you guys have any objection then on the medium ones, leaving the city land use management plan number 1, value added building number 2, and then internet number 3?
Well, I'd
think
like
for-
to see our focus remain on the budget. As far as the internet goes, that's really kind of out of our wheelhouse. I don't know what we can actually accomplish. That's a business decision that GCI is going to make. And the last thing I heard was that they were going to take down the service that exists now.
Yeah, this GCI will be out of the picture here.
Yeah.
If the feds come in and there's federal dollars available, and I mean, maybe they'll be back in, but I mean, I'm thinking something along. The tribe's got way more access to this type of money than we will ever have. But I think there needs that. When it comes to federal dollars in the tribal, I mean, they explicitly said tribal entities will be at the top of the list for those federal dollars for internet.
Yeah.
We would be crazy not to try to partnership with the tribe
Absolutely.
to leverage that. So, and I think that's going to take a little bit of work, on our part, to do
Sure.
that. So I just don't want to let it,
Yep.
go and we miss a perfect opportunity when that money it's been allocated and it's coming.
There's
So
one other thing I wanted to ask about is the roof at the gas station. What's happening?
So Councilmember Nathan, staff made temporary improvements to it. So
Sorry, staff did what?
they made temporary improvements to it. And then when the weather is better, they're going to get up there and make them more permanent improvements, so that way it's good to go. But like the mayor said, and staff also found the same thing, they thought the roof was in really good condition. And so we just need to make some permanent minor improvements and we should be good to go.
But we did do some temporary repairs so that
Yes.
it's not leaking.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that because it wasn't raining on the day they made the improvements. So they did as best as they could. And then we told the fuel and lube manager to let us know if he's noticing it raining in particular or leaking in particular places, and we can go fix it when the weather is favorable.
So
We'll know
Thank you.
after this storm for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, we probably know
Because we
today.
haven't had a drop of rain in a month, so.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, we do have Councilmember Peyton on the phone
Okay.
so she can speak, but she can't hear you guys. So
Okay.
if we can let her speak and then she can join the meeting again so she can hear this conversation because
Okay.
she's not able to gather it.
Yep.
So, okay, Ms. Peyton, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone right now. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Can you guys hear?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, just such a simple thing. I feel like this has been such a project to say. I'd like us to put public outreach back on our priority list, put it in a small category if that's what you think is appropriate. Our whole job as a city is to communicate and be as transparent with the community as possible, and I think the city does an excellent job with that. But I just felt that you guys did such an excellent job with the grader. You were really motivated to get the word out there, educate people on the issue, and it worked out. And I just think that the city does so much in the community, and it's really easy to take things for granted. And so I kind of came up with some sort of solution with Heidi and Rachel, which has come to a head with her letter about the internship. And I also try to loop Councilmember Rojas into it. I'd like to see the city pursue that. It doesn't have to be a really big expenditure. My thought was that it would just be something that we film on our iPhone and put out there on Facebook once every other week or so. But I really want to see the city doing that for itself, just advocating for the why, the what we're doing on a daily basis on a more personal and modern level than what our current status quo. So anyway, sorry for all the hoops here, and I'll join the meeting now.
Okay, she'll come back on the meeting now. but she just wanted to be able to-
Okay. So maybe should we wait till she's back on, or I'm not sure if she.
Does Heidi, can you see her as a participant?
Well, she had to leave so that she didn't have feedback, but she should be coming back.
I didn't really understand anything she said, so if somebody
Yeah,
could-
maybe that's what I was gonna ask. Maybe you could clear something about wanting the city to do more public outreach, some sort of weekly, like a social media update, or
Right,
what's she
we-
looking for exactly?
Yeah, she's talked to the city office a few times about having videos, weekly videos or regular videos about what staff are doing at the city, what our jobs are, how, what we do at the city, and involving the school. And that includes Rachel put out a post for the internship position at the city, which would be, that's the whole, not the whole, but that's a big part of what the internship is that they provide those stories, those city stories on social media. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
It looks like we did have Harmony join us back, but that's just that public outreach for what the city is currently working on. I think is a big part of what she was talking about.
Okay, so would that be, would she want that as an individual priority for the small priority, or where was she looking to?
She said she didn't care where she put it.
Okay.
I put it under small because that's what we were talking about, but we can move it wherever you guys want. She
Okay.
did mention that she didn't think it would cost a lot of money and then it was an ongoing project. So it seems to fit the definition of what a
Okay, and I
small
just wonder
priority.
though, if something like that isn't more of an operational type day-to-day thing rather than a targeted goal.
Mhm.
To me, that's just like, when we talk about roads and stuff, to me, that just seems like, maintenance, operational. And of course, there's a funding component to that where it gets a little different. If we needed to go out to get funds or something, then it may turn into a project, but just like that, I think that's an operational thing that could be accomplished without it being a priority. And again, not trying to diminish it, but trying to, make sure, and maybe it makes it on the list of small priorities.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I have something about the medium priorities.
Mhm.
Since the land management plan is going to be coming up, could we move that to number 2? Move the internet or cell or whatever you guys want to do to number 3? And put the value added buildings, since I've been hearing a lot of talk about it, at least the last couple months, to number 1 for medium priorities?
Well, my only concern with that is we have yet to really get much at all in front of council on the land use management plan. And I think we may have a little bit of a battle coming up on that, if you will, when the time comes. I imagine at the very least, we're going to have a number of spirited discussions on what and how we're going to, use our lands. We can change this mid-year too. So I would like to keep the land use management plan as our focus, number 1, value added building number 2. And then once we know we're on our way or close, if we have a mid-year adjustment or something, then we can swap that around. That's my thought process on that.
I would agree with that, Mr. Mayor. The city land use management plan is going to be a big one, and it's a big project that we need to keep center because it does flow into many parts of the city. So I would encourage that and value added second. And
Yeah,
then
because the
broad-
value added building may ultimately, it's going to get wrapped right into that plan as well.
Yep.
And I have a message from Councilmember Payton that she would like to see public outreach be a priority.
Okay.
I guess I have a question. Is it not already within the city? You guys are doing a tremendous job. Do you feel like it's something that needs, I agree with Jeremiah that it seems like it's more an operational process that already happened. So I guess I'm a little bit confused. If it just needs to be maybe on the list as a remind us of that, but it seems like the city is right on track with that. Am I incorrect in that?
Well, so Councilmember Rojas, I think, and I should have said this at the beginning, and it'll become more familiar because this is only the second time council has done this. But this tool isn't just for staff upholding council's will. It's also the council communicating to the public what your priorities are. And so, for next year, 2022, that could be a small priority focus that Councilmember Payton suggested of public outreach, or it could be marketing and public outreach. The city the voters passed the sales tax increase for the summer. And so, and now I'm working with the chamber to see like what are ways the city can support businesses. And Councilmember Payton's the representative for the city on the chamber. So it could be like not just public outreach, but marketing, getting the word out about what services the city does. So we could make the year 2022 the year of that, not only to just support the businesses and the voters, but also just communicate to the public that we want more
And
transparency.
that goes back to what you were saying as well, George, if we expand, now that you put it in that context, maybe it's broadened a little bit, to include a few more things. That's because I know we've talked about partnering with the chamber and trying to get some stuff going with them as well. So
I would agree with
Okay.
that. That framing sounds good to me.
And I see a hand raised. Councilmember
It's
Peyton,
just me. Can you guys hear me now?
a little
Little
bit
bit.
better.
I get that. So much covered my ear. We live in such a unique place. I don't know if anybody's really thought about it, but we are the only on this side of the peninsula across the water. We class city on this side of so much going for us, but we think we forget that we really great where you can spend 10 minutes recording a video of a council member or a community member interacting with this Seldovia, issuing awareness in the community that it's palatable in a way that not everyone wants to take the time to read our minutes or our agendas. You know, a lot of people don't have the time to sit through these long meetings during the day, or you know, they're feeding their kid, tuning in, and you know, that's not necessary. We have to now, and a lot are even aware of are tuning in. But the public outreach of city to bring the city of Seldovia more modern age, making a more modern and yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of upcoming mayors, and capital is going to have to by merit of city, and instead of coming to the community with kind of like we're just preparing with the information as we become it's really important part of daily the city's job of it. If we take it a start by a couple of us council members with
Hey, Harmony, I'm not, we're only getting
The
literally
community.
every other word here. So it's pretty tough to hear.
And so I with Rachel and Deb. Oh,
She must have a big lag. There must be a lag on her end as well. Yeah, we're just, Harmony, sorry, we're just not getting, we're not getting much of value. It's super broken. Apologize for that, but it's, yeah, it's pretty tough to communicate right now with the connection we have going here. Can you guys online, Vivian or Jennifer, can you guys hear her at all, or is she coming in super broken to you guys as well?
No, I can't hear. It's about 1 out of every 8th word.
Okay. All right. Yep. Same thing.
For me, it was about the same on my separate connection.
Okay. So it's coming in bad then. So it's got to be on her end then. So everybody else. Okay. Okay. I think we got a little bit of what she's trying to get based on what you had said as well. So.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yep. Go ahead, George.
if I could ask the city manager, what was the response to the document you sent out to everybody in town and out the road asking for suggestions on revenue and spending and so forth? Did anyone respond at all?
That's a great question, Councilmember Nathan. We've gotten about 10 responses. And so at the start of the new year, they're all going to be compiled so that council can see what the public has submitted for your consideration before you begin the in-depth budget process for fiscal year 2023.
Yeah, at least 10 of them.
Yes. If there are no other medium priorities, we can hop down to small. And of course, council members at any point can add anything to this list. And then once we have everything put together, then we can work on ranking them in for your top 1, 2, and 3 of each category. So are there any other small priorities that council members want the body to consider?
I think, I think we agreed we'd get rid of the other number 2 and number 3 currently. I know we tried last year. There may have been a few meetings, I think, between you guys. We didn't get a lot of traction on the beautification, retaining the small town charms. But Vivian or Bobby, if you guys wanted to add anything on that, I know I'd like to leave that on there. I mean, that another thought that came to mind was with what we have going on, it seems like our central business district down here, we've made progress now with adding a couple more businesses and starting to look a little more lively in town for sure. We've had some businesses sell, new ownership, so it's pretty exciting to see our central business district. And then just wanting to see it, it expanded in terms of it being inviting for folks to come in and, shop and such during not only the summer months, but the winter time as well.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, I actually talked to Harmony about it, and I kind of, we let the city manager know that when all this started to come about, it was actually summertime is just too busy for folks to really do much of anything except for their own thing, whether it be gardening, whether it be this, whether it be that. So we had talked about coming up with a plan in the winter time that we would like to then implement in the summertime. So that's kind of where we are right now. Harmony and I just haven't had a chance, she's got 3 kids, so it's a little difficult. But hopefully we'll have a little bit of a plan by summer. I think we're going to have to take one plan at a time, like the parks, what we'd like to do with this park or that park. And apparently we don't have as many parks as we think we do. Anyway, or putting up a banner or 2. So we just have to come up with a little plan that we can implement this summer, for this summer. So that's what we're working on.
Okay.
So yes, I agree. I'd like to keep this, but maybe we could move it to number 3.
Well, yeah, let's see what else we hear for other small priorities. George, you got anything on small or?
As I said before, I think we should spend a lot more time and effort on getting our finances straightened out than, it'd be great to have a bunch of real nice looking parks, but it doesn't get us anything really.
Okay. Vivian or Jennifer, do you guys have anything to add on small priorities?
Yeah, I kind of been just probably not racking my brain enough, but I think maybe in the small priorities, listening to what George is saying, and I'm also kind of on that venue also. I mean, through the years, Seldovia ended up with a bunch of parks and then not people taking care of them. And it's been this cycle over and over. And I think the parks are lovely. I think making the town look good when people walk through it is a priority. And I think my portion, and Jeremiah, I think our portion was trying to figure out what clearing right of ways so the parks are accessible and the roadways are clear for pedestrians and cars and for our city workers. So the beautification thing, I think it needs, I'm happy to hear that Bobby and who else is working over there? Oh, Harmony are working on the beautification aspect of what can be done. But I think money needs to be a concern there. I think how much money we're putting out is a question. So maybe in a small priority, we would also have conversation. I'm not really sure what you would call this, but having a conversation about how the city does work with the chamber and kind of whose responsibilities are what, identifying what the city, which when we start going through our city finances, what we're responsible for and what we can contribute to without nick it into our budget when really the job of the city is provide services. So how can we network doing the job that we're supposed to be doing as opposed to getting outside of our boundaries is something. And I'm not really sure that's a conversation, if that's a committee that could be made, just a brainstorm I just threw out of my mouth just now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Jennifer, did you have anything to add?
No, I had some small parking ideas, but they're lumped into that land use management. So that's a discussion for another time.
Okay. So we've got, yeah, so we've still got the beautification, retaining small town charm. And then the public outreach / marketing, / chamber of commerce and networking. What else do we have on there? Small. Yeah, I think we've made we've made much better progress on starting to clear some right of ways. Yeah, I think we're seeing a definite improvement now that we've got, it seems like we've got the maintenance department stabilized here with the right number of people. I know the guys have been on it here pretty good. And so that's exciting to see.
Mhm.
If there aren't any other council member contributions, I just wanted to offer an administrative suggestion, which may change one of your top priorities here, but the city by the end of next year, 2022, is going to have $66,000 of ARPA funding. Now, ARPA funding can be used for broadband, water and sewer improvements, and a whole heck of a lot more. So my recommendation to council, but you totally don't have to take it, is to amend your large priority for sewer water infrastructure complete upgrade, and instead think of it like leverage ARPA funding for major capital improvements like water, sewer, harbor, broadband. That's just a suggestion, but looking at the city's capacity and the fact that we have that money, I would love to work with the council and see like, how can we hire grant writers to help us get the grants to do that work? Or how can we use a portion of the ARPA funding to match a grant requirement or something of that nature so that you can see a major improvement happen with your capital assets. At the local government conference in Anchorage that both myself and the city clerk were at, there was a presentation that got me feeling a little bit giddy, but also overwhelmed that ARPA funding and this infrastructure bill and funding is about to hit, and it's going to happen over a 5-year process. And the city doesn't really have any shovel-ready projects. The closest one that we have that I can look at is the Block Street sewer improvement repair, where CRW, an engineering firm, they did prepare designs for how it could be improved. But I guess you could say the harbor. I have a technical report from the Denali Commission about how the harbor could be improved. But I would love to see the city position itself more with shovel-ready projects using that ARPA funding to help get us there. So it's just an administrative recommendation, but I could see it helping you guys accomplish the harbor, sewer, water, even improving the internet capability. So not to throw a wrench in at least one of your priorities, but it's just something that I'm seeing you could articulate to the public, your vision for next year, how you're going to use the $66,000 that the city's going to receive.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, yeah, I mean, when we've got sewer water infrastructure complete upgrade on here, we know the tall task that entails. And that, I mean, without actually getting something moving along the way, I mean, your suggestion of using or, putting on here, retitling that, leveraging ARPA funds for large capital improvement projects. probably is a little more realistic since that money is coming. It's probably a little more realistic. And then it kind of also expands our opportunities here. I mean, if we get that money and then we start talking about specifically, going after a water and sewer grant or whatever, then the focus can be on, yes, how do we get there? To me, that makes a lot more sense. What do you guys think?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that the reality of actually doing a sewer water infrastructure complete upgrade is way off in the future. So leveraging those funds, which basically, if I'm understanding this right, would be getting either consultants or somebody to do a research for us to find out what's available to us to get, and then get somebody to write a grant for it, and then get it or not, we spend the $69,000 or whatever that number is, basically trying to get something for it, getting a grant. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct, Councilmember Rojas. So it's like looking at what the restrictions are for that funding, because there's also the chance that the city could use it to replace expenditures for regular operating costs. So you guys could decide, well, instead of allocating the ARPA funding for grants to do major capital improvements, maybe we want to look at taking some of that ARPA money and putting it to replace like a general fund expenditure. But the intent of that is that if you guys want to see major capital improvements, we need to start getting the city better positioned. So that way when we know there's a funding opportunity coming up, we can equip the grant writer, or we can equip the city manager with all of the things right then and there so that they can just apply for it, because we've been waiting for it. And I think you could use ARPA as that way to get the city set up for that.
I would be in agreement of that. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Yeah,
Miss-
it's basically seed money, if you will, that could be, I mean, if we do it right, could be utilized to get any one of our major infrastructure projects off the ground and rolling. So, no, I like that. I like that idea.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead, George.
for the city manager, I believe we have an expert waiting in the wings, willing to work for nothing. Do we not?
Dare say more, Councilmember Nathan?
Sure, say anything you want. John Imhoff is who I'm talking about.
Oh, yes. Yes. Councilmember Nathan introduced myself and the mayor to a seasonal constituent who is willing to offer in-kind grant input for, this was in relation to the community block development grant. So that can also be another person we can tap for assistance, but usually the grant writing and project development and documentation is very time intensive. So there's, I feel like, a limit to in-kind services, but of course we could use him and anyone else you think before we actually have to hire somebody to help us.
I don't understand. You telling me that someone that volunteers to do something for nothing, we can't use him after a certain point? What does
No,
that
no,
mean?
no. It's like I even emailed with him briefly outside of our meeting, and because he works for a private company, there's only so much he can do before it might cross into his other work or capacity or obligation. So it's like balancing his opportunity or his availability to assist the city with his normal workload, what he's actually getting paid for. So there's only so much I think the city could expect from a volunteer, especially if it's a major project that might require a significant amount of time. I'm not saying that will definitely happen, but you only know until you get there.
I guess I have a different recollection of the meeting that I sat in between him and you. But anyway, you're on this, so I'll leave it there.
Okay. Well, if there are no other priorities that the council wants to add to the list, we can then start to rank them. And it sounded like council was starting to do that during the meeting. And so City Clerk Daigle, if you don't mind, we can help remember what that ranking was. And then council can decide if that's the way that you would like them ranked. And then we can see if there's any council members interested in sponsoring a particular priority.
Mr. Mayor, could we take a small break right now?
Yeah, let's do that while Heidi's populating these. That'd be
Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
Let's take 5, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you guys all back online there? Vivian?
I can see Jen, Mr. Mayor, but
Yep, I'm here.
yep, and
Okay.
looks like
Yep.
yeah.
All right, where do we want to pick up here on the priorities?
So Mayor, we are, sorry, I have a little bit of trail mix in my mouth. We are ranking the priorities, and the city clerk helped us get a start with what she remembered the ranking of the council was. So we can start, let's just start with small since it's up at the top, and begin to outline the first, second, and third priority for the small category.
Okay, so I think the first, I think we're, unless there was an objection, leaving the beautification, retaining the small town charm, where it was at on the, for number one.
And was clearing right of ways part of that originally? Do we want to have those two, or is that clearing right of ways completed?
I think the clearing right of ways can probably, drop off that. We've made a ton of progress on that. And I think that's on the city's operational to-do list now, going forward here every summer. I know when we first added that back on there, Vivian, we had gone for a number of years with very little progress in that, and we were getting overrun everywhere. And I think just even 1 year alone here, we've made some huge headway on that. When we start looking at the storage yard out the road, and then just the streets in general starting to get cut back.
Right. So is that something we could take off of there? Is that what we're saying?
I think so. Yeah, I think it can come off there. The right of ways, clearing right of ways came off.
It's not even on here.
No, it was up there.
So the marketing and public outreach seems to be something that was a common theme during this. Maybe that should be an item 2, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good spot for that. Then do we have one of those that wants to go on to number 3 or?
Yeah, it looks like council spoke in favor of the ferry advocacy and Testamina replacement vessel, so that could be a small priority. And then in terms of identifying city responsibilities, contributions, and networking for city parks, I think Councilmember Rojas, was that in reference to reaching out to the chamber as well as volunteers or other people in the community?
Yeah, if I may. To me, it was identifying what city responsibilities have and what they're doing, and that we don't overextend ourselves. So maybe that could just be in, to me, it was more of making sure we're not overextending ourselves financially or personnel wise. So I'm not sure where we want to put that into the game plan, if it needs to be part of the public outreach, marketing, and know that the city needs to know their responsibilities and the contribution, identify those and see what direction they're going in. Maybe it would fit there better. And I'm not really sure how you would add that in there, but that would be kind of an oversight for me anyhow, with the marketing and the public outreach.
It could even be marketing and public outreach with city's limited capacity.
Yep, there you go. That would work for me. Thank you.
Okay, and then keep the chamber partnership even there. I think that they would appreciate seeing
Mhm.
the city calling the chamber out, so.
Yep.
Okay, so then does the council wish to have the ferry advocacy be your third small priority? is really the last question.
Yes.
Yeah, if we don't have anything, else to go on there, let's put that one on there.
Okay. So we have our top 3 small council priorities, and out of those, do we have any sponsors? So any council members that are interested in those particular priorities? I could see Councilmember Payton being interested in number 2, but I don't want to speak for you. And then, of course, we had the people who were interested, the council members interested in beautification from 2021 as well.
Right. I was on that committee of number 1 before, and I'd be willing to work with Bobby towards design or contribution or concepts if it's needed.
Okay. Councilmember Sweat and Mayor Campbell, do you both still want to be on beautification as well?
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay.
I would too.
Councilmember Payton, I don't know if your internet is allowing you to participate, but are you interested in still being a council champion for beautification?
I'm kind of just texting Heidi my responses, if that'll work better than this.
Yes.
Yes, she says she would like to be on 1 and 2 as well.
Okay, great. Now, is there any council member interested in joining Councilmember Payton for marketing and public outreach? All right, and also Councilmember Kennedy is absent, but he may want to throw his name on some of these too when council adopts them through resolution at your next meeting. And we have the 3rd small priority of ferry advocacy. Are there any council members wishing to work on that? Councilmember Sweat?
I would like to just, yeah, I like to keep up on that to make sure that we are always putting the bug in somebody's ear
Great.
about the ferry.
We will put your name on that then. Councilmember Sweat for the ferry. All right, moving on to our medium council priorities. We have first one being the lump, the land use management plan, second, value added building, third, improve broadband internet capability. So pursue rural broadband opportunities. Do we have council members interested? So council members Sweat and Rojas threw their names in the hat to be the city council ambassadors or champions for the lump. Do we have a council member interested in the value added building and helping the city with that?
So I would volunteer for that one because I think, yeah, we got some ideas to talk about on that moving forward.
Great. Any other council member interested in the value added building?
If you need another person, I could do that. I'd be interested in doing that.
Okay. And then number 3, improve broadband internet capability. So pursue rural broadband opportunities. Is there a council member interested in internet?
We're all interested.
Good response.
You're not phrasing that properly.
Yeah. And being a champion. Okay, we'll keep it to everybody for that one. And then for our large, so it looks like we still need to fill in a couple items there for our large council priorities. So first question is, do we still want to make improving the city's finances overall the first large priority for the city?
I would think yes. I
Yes.
didn't hear any objections and we heard everyone in the affirmative on that.
Okay, great. And then we had a couple items that were added to that. So developing the sustainable budget, looking at flow of money in and out, as well as amending code so that the permanent fund can be invested differently. So we're just adding those to the list. What would be council's second large priority?
Well, seeing as how the Jackaloff dock is right in our forefront, it seems like that should be a priority because it is. And then the leveraging the ARPA funds would be third.
Yeah, I think that's what we agreed on.
And so then would council want to make the second large priority just about Jackaloff?
I think we should for now, not to say that when it comes time for these ARPA funds, that Jackaloff couldn't be rolled into that conversation. I
Definitely.
think we've got some immediate stuff we got to deal with on Jackaloff.
Definitely. Okay.
Have we heard anything from, you did query the state as to whether we could actually rid ourselves of that? Yes?
Yes, and we'll discuss that more at the council meeting coming up on the 13th.
Okay, you have heard from it then.
Yes. So on that note, what council champions want to take on improving? Let's throw the word improving in front of city finances overall. Is there a council member that would like to take that on?
Sure.
Councilmember Nathan. Any other council members?
If you need somebody, I can go on that.
And Councilmember Swick, just calling you out. I know you have a lot going on, but because you called out the permanent fund, I know Councilmember Rojas is volunteering, but would you want to be on this topic as well?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Okay.
With enthusiasm, please.
Put your degree to work there, Jen.
No, something like that.
Mhm.
Okay, great. And then Jackaloff maintenance and upgrades.
Oh, boy.
You can put me on that one.
Mayor Campbell. Okay.
Yeah, I can help with that one too.
Thank you. Any other takers? Okay, and then the last large priority, we have leverage ARPA funding for major capital projects. Not all at once.
Mhm.
That was your idea, so we can put you on there to bring that back to us.
Hey, city staff are supporting everything here.
I think we should probably all get behind that one
Okay.
for
so-
sure.
Bring the info to us.
Yeah. Let's just do committee of the whole on that because
Yep.
administration is implicit
There you
in
go.
everything.
Committee of the whole sounds good.
Okay, great. So if there aren't additional comments on this, these will be your calendar year 2022 priorities. It'll come before you December 13th in the form of a resolution that you'll adopt. And then these priorities, in addition to the values, will then be used for city marketing, outreach. That was actually, I'm glad Councilmember Payton touched on it. It was something that I was thinking to, like public information campaigns and storytelling on city services and personnel. The city clerk had a great idea of photographing staff or working with staff, highlighting who works at the city and what services they provide. Just bringing that up there is that these are really great ideas overall that the council has proposed for 2022. And I'm so happy that city staff has a council that works together with us as a team to support these things happening. So I just wanted to touch on really quick what I see are my roles and responsibilities helping the council accomplish this. So the council works as a body, which is why it's really important that you tell the staff as a body, this is what we want you guys to accomplish. Now, individual council members can have ideas throughout the year, which is just fine, and staff can support you to a certain extent, but it's the body that directs the city resources, in addition to the city manager helping handle the day-to-day operations of the city. And so if there's a particular idea or a change, a proposed change that a council member has for the priorities, you can totally bring these back before the council to make amendments or to add or take anything off. And so I see it as my role and responsibility to educate you guys on where we're going with the priorities, working with staff to give you those updates so you can see the successes or challenges that we're facing with each of them. And then also working with the council champions or the members that have taken on those particular projects, so that you feel like, because you guys are volunteers, you're going above and beyond for your community, doing a work that's not the easiest to do. So if there's any ways that the administration can support you as a council champion of something such as Jackaloff Dock, that's what we're here for. We're here for support. You need research, you need data, you need numbers, you need people to reach out to. You just let us know and we work on that for you. Are there any questions as to how the city manager or administration in general can support council in these objectives?
Nope.
Okay, well, we need your feedback. So if there's any ways that we can make it more transparent or digestible, because it's a lot of information all at once, please let me know. And then I'm really looking forward to another year with the council accomplishing these really important tasks. So thank you so much for taking time, giving your Monday afternoon to the city so that we could line this out for next year. It's a great New Year's gift to administration.
Great. Well, Happy New Year on that.
Hanukkah, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, well, we've made it through that another year. Appreciate everyone's input on that. And we can have any closing comments. Anyone on council care to say anything? Bobby?
Yeah, Vivian, when are you due back?
I am back.
She's
I
back.
know
Oh,
town
you are? Okay.
Saturdays.
Okay.
With Yep. Good to be back.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
she made it in the last flight to Seldovia.
Okay, I did not know that. And thanks to the
forever.
city staff for putting this together. And for those of us who are here participating.
Okay, thank you, Robbie. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd just like to give my thanks for the staff and everything they've accomplished and help us accomplish and giving us direction of where we're going. I think it's a great position that we put ourselves in by setting priorities, and I appreciate all the work from the staff. Thank you. And council, thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Anyone else? Okay, do we have anyone from the public that wanted to comment on anything? Nothing? Okay. All right, sounds good. All right. Again, thanks everyone for your participation, and we got through this. Our next regular meeting is going to be Monday, December 13th at 6 p.m. And we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.